come on in. Had a good show for you tonight. I got my workout clothes hanging in the back, as usual. I had a monster workout tonight. I did some hill sprints. I did some backwards uphill. For those who've seen that, I got that from the knees over toes guy. I'm sure everyone's kind of seen his. He's got a bunch of viral clips on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, I like to do when I'm doing hill sprints and stuff. I'll take two of the hills and I'll go backwards up them a little bit. It's a killer workout, and people look at you really weird, which is a bonus. But then I also I did a pull workout, so I came. That's what she said. But no, I did like rows and stuff like that, and basically I'm tired, is what I'm trying to tell you. Sleeping. So we'll see how this goes, but I think we're live on YouTube and trying out Rumble. I don't know if it connects yet, but we'll see. So let's get it started. 10 p.m. coffee, the best kind of coffee. Why are my intro graphics playing? Wait, one sec. Live from a studio apartment, this is Misinformation. Well, tonight, Eric Swalwell was accused of mortgage fraud. Yeah. Now, this is the fourth prominent Democrat to be accused in recent months of mortgage fraud. Yeah. It's all part of Trump's plan to lower the cost of homes by convincing Democrats to stop stealing them. Please. Just steal a little less of them if you can. Anything helps. There's Starbucks workers went on a strike in over 40 states. Yeah, Starbucks is striking, which marks the biggest blow to white women since BLM. Yeah. Pumpkin spice matters too. That's what they want you to know. Notifications. This was earlier today on Twitter. The official Democrat Twitter account made a claim that Trump had spent Thanksgiving dinner with Epstein in 2017 based on Epstein emails. And then they later had to come back and delete the tweet because it was found to be false. Yeah. Yeah, they were pretty quick with it. This isn't the first time Democrats have had to delete some emails. They got some experience. Senator John Fetterman, he's had some unfortunate news recently. So Fetterman today, he's been in the news all over the place, but today he fell, I guess. He had an incident and he fell outside of his home. He's okay. He went to the hospital and everything. He's in good condition and everything. But yeah, they were asking him why he fell. He said he was tired of carrying the Democrats. It's a big burden to bear. Does anyone else find it weird that the most sane Democrat is a stroke victim? It's like it reversed the Democrat brain damage somehow. Just the stroke made him normal. Had the opposite effect as most people. All right, tonight's stories. Let's pull up. What is this even on? Here, hold on one sec. Let's go to actual Twitter here. The twat. Let's figure it out. I think this is on the right thing. Boom. Okay, cool. That's showing up normal. That's showing up normal there. Okay. What's going on tonight? Yeah, I mean, the Epstein files, the emails released by the Democrats are still in the news. So Democrats have very obviously been pushing a hoax. You know, Trump keeps making claims that the Epstein thing is a hoax. That ruffles the feathers of almost everyone, including conservatives who are like, it's not a freaking hoax, right? But I think he's speaking more towards the fact that Democrats are using it in like a hoax-like fashion, you know, which is pretty obvious. Yesterday they released a bunch of emails that were claiming that Trump knew about the girls and stuff, and it turns out that the girl cited in the email who was making those claims or was connected with it was actually, her name had been redacted because she's already a well-known witness in a trial that came out and said Trump did nothing wrong, right? So the actual evidence, when you look into it, completely refutes the Democrats' claims. Well, today, they're pushing the Epstein emails back into the news. They're doing a good job of it, if you think about it, actually, because this is a bit of a slow news cycle these last couple days. So they picked a really good time to do it, right? There's nothing too much going on. It's sort of been a lull after the government reopened. And so they've been pushing this story really big. I'm talking about it, right? Even me, when I'm going to write jokes in the morning, when I'm going to look at what stories to talk about, it's one of the only things to talk about, So it's actually effective. They are putting it out there and getting it in the news cycle. Let me see if I can pull up the chat real quick, too. Chat, where you at? Here. If anyone's there, say what's up. Feel free. I'm trying to test this to see if I can actually see the messages, because it's supposed to be pulling from multiple sites right now. I'm told that's how it works. Anyways, so a couple things on the emails. Well, there was I mentioned this in the opening bit, but yeah, there was an official tweet. This is how you know it's a hoax, okay? And that they're like pushing this as like trying to put it in the news. So the official Democrat Twitter account, this is the tweet right here. They came out and said, this is from the Democrats account here, right? It's got the donkey and everything on it. It says, new documents show Donald Trump spent Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017. So not alleging, they're just saying it shows definitive proof. That's a pretty solid statement there, right? At the time, they say Trump was already president and Epstein was already a convicted sex offender. Okay, then they have some emails, which I tried to read through. I don't even know how to make sense of them. Someone mentions Trump at some point in there. Anyways, people on Twitter looked into the claim. There's apparently irrefutable evidence that Trump was at Mar-a-Lago on that Thanksgiving. And so they ended up deleting the tweet. There have been a lot of stories recently. The BBC recently had to come out and apologize for editing together some footage, trying to make it look like Trump directly called for violence at the Capitol on January 6th when he didn't. If you watch the actual clip unstitched together, that's pretty obvious. But Trump's threatening to sue all these news organizations and could even theoretically sue the Democrat Party, right, for a false claim, right? So you're seeing more and more accounts go back and retract things. And it's happening all over the place. So I think people are starting to get a little bit wary of, for a while it just seemed like the Democrats, especially when they were in power, could kind of say whatever they wanted. And they could kind of push those lies and those bold claims out there. Trump was being lawfared. He couldn't really do anything about it, just tried to defend himself. Now it's a little bit different, where people are a little more hesitant to make statements like that. But this tweet here, let me go back to it, just says the official account deleted their post claiming President Trump spent Thanksgiving there. He was literally the president, dumbasses. You'd think someone might have noticed that, which is true. Tim Pool had a little bit on the Epstein emails. We'll listen in real quick.
As recently released emails from Jeffrey Epstein, as well as emails between Jeffrey Epstein and journalist Michael Wolff, which they said proves Donald Trump was engaged in untoward activity, and that is an understatement. However, shortly after the release of these emails, not many people noticed the victim's name that was redacted was, in fact, Virginia Giuffre, who had already testified years ago that Trump never did anything wrong. So the question then becomes, why did Democrats choose to redact the name of an individual who had already testified Trump never did anything wrong? It's because they know that Virginia Giuffre testified this, and by redacting the victim, no one knows who the victim supposedly is, and it implies Trump did something wrong. In other words,
this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, where this was yesterday. The Democrats put out these emails and they redacted the name of a victim statement. And this has already, once you reveal who the name is, they've already not been discredited. They actually just came out in court and said Trump did nothing wrong. So they're trying to frame it like this is another new witness. It's not, right? So everything they're doing here looks like it's exactly a scam to frame Trump, basically. They were talking about, I guess, a newscaster was accusing, I think his last name is Lawrence, was accusing J.D. Vance, the vice president, of going silent during the Epstein scandal. And J.D. replied to him in a tweet. It was pretty funny. He says, J.D. comes back and says, I did two media interviews literally today, one of which is airing in a few hours. So I just thought that was funny. He's making the claim down here is J.D. Vance is doing exactly what Gerald Ford did while the Nixon presidency was sinking. And had months left to resignation. Things were the darkest. He disappeared. So, and then JD's responding to him here. JD Vance had an interesting interview, actually. One of them was released with Hannity. Here was one of the most interesting parts. He's discussing, hopefully this is
attorney
not
Brad
playing.
Edwards.
Silence it. He was discussing what he's learned from Trump, having worked with him. And it was a really good clip. I'll play it here.
Trump. I mean, he is a force of nature.
He is.
I've known him 30 years. What have you learned from him?
You know, a few things. Number one, the president is amazing at compartmentalizing things. When something is going on, there's always a crisis. The very best day in the West Wing, there's at least one crisis somewhere in the world that somebody's putting at your desk. The president has an incredible ability to sort of say, okay, focus on that for 15 minutes and then go and focus on something totally different for 15 minutes. That's not naturally how I am. If something bad is going on, I tend to want to think about that thing and solve that problem before I go on to something else. The president is incredible at that compartmentalization. I think that's one of the reasons why he can handle 10 different problems at once, is because he's able to troubleshoot and then move on to the next thing. Troubleshoot and move on to the next thing. The second thing that I've learned from the president, Sean, and I've tried to absorb it as much as I can, and I think some of this is just who he is and his natural instincts, is he has better instincts about human beings than anybody that I've ever met.
Fascinating.
That's something you hear a lot from people who've dealt with Trump on a long-term or personal basis, that he just has these instincts about people. He can sense, I think it was Barbara Corcoran, one of the Shark Tank lady with the short hair, and she was, she sounded like she hates him, but she was talking about him, and she was saying, number one, he was like the best salesman she'd ever met in her life when she'd worked with him. But then also she said, I think they were asking her what she thought made him a good salesman. And she was saying that he could instantly size people up and figure out what their greatest weakness was, right? Which is like a negative way of saying, like, he could size people up and figure out what they wanted, right? And what they really cared about. So that's something you hear often about Trump, which is really cool. And then the compartmentalizing thing I thought was interesting, because you don't necessarily think of Trump in that light as being somebody who's like a multitasker, and just like, you kind of see it, and I guess you sort of assume it because you go, wow, he's getting a lot of shit done, right? But just hearing someone kind of talk about his ability to compartmentalize different things and to attack a problem here for 15 minutes, come up with some solutions, direct people to take action on them, move on to the next issue, I thought was really interesting. It's a little bit inspiring to me. I mean, honestly, I wish I were more like that. I'm a little bit more like J.D. Vance, actually, where like I'll sweat a problem and obsess over it until I solve it, you know? So I wish I had a little bit more of that in me. Vance, he also touched on AI taking people's jobs. He is not concerned about it. I'll play the clip here. We'll see what you think.
Look, I understand why people are worried that, you know, if you have a robot doing that job, does it take away from a blue-collar worker who can do that job? Right now, the evidence that I see is that if we really lean into robotics and technology, it's going to raise everybody's wages and make everybody better off. The example that I often give is of bank tellers. If you go back to when the automated teller machine was invented, everybody said it was going to destroy the jobs of all the bank tellers. What actually happened is that today you have more people working in bank telling than you did 50 years ago. They're doing different jobs. They're not just handing people money, they're doing different jobs, but they have higher wages. So sometimes what technology does is it allows somebody to do something a little bit different, to use their mind a little bit more than some of the rote tasks they might have been doing. And that actually means they're more productive, they get better wages, and everybody becomes better off.
I do disagree with him a little bit here. He's not completely wrong though. But the difference between the bank teller machine and a machine that can completely take over your job and talk to the customer like a talking ATM that can troubleshoot problems in real time. I mean, it absolutely is going to replace some people's jobs, particularly like point of sale customer service jobs. I mean, I don't see how those could outlive AI. If you can just roll up to a drive-through and complete your order and everything gets done and there's half of the staff present, I don't see why companies wouldn't do that. Don't see why customers wouldn't prefer it. It's honestly there's I work in property management, and there's a lot of customer service positions there. I was recently interviewing for jobs, and we were kind of talking about AI in the industry. And the thing is, like, it is very obvious to me that at some point AI will take over a lot of those customer service jobs, right? So everyone in that kind of customer service industry is really sweating AI. And what you hear them say as like a defense is they all sort of start talking about like, oh, well, I feel like people really want the human touch, And that's the one thing that AI can't provide is the human touch. And I'm like, have you ever dealt with a human before? That's the one thing I don't want when I'm trying to get some shit done, is to have to deal with a human. Now, phone systems and phone branch trees are way worse, but theoretically, if AI is good and it can just get shit done, I wouldn't care, right? So the one thing, though, is you see all these people in that industry defending their jobs, and I think that what you will see is he is right in the sense that AI does enhance some careers. I use it a lot here. Like, I use Grok specifically to make little videos and photos, and I wouldn't be able to do that at all if I were using like a human graphic artist. I wouldn't be able to afford it, right, for all these photos and videos. So it allows me to do more, right? Like, I can accentuate my work and stuff, right? We'll see what happens when there's the AI me doing better jokes. I don't know how I'll do then, but I think what you will see is, I imagine this sort of dystopian future where people refuse to leave their jobs even though they are rendered moot. Because I don't think people will give up their jobs. And I think even up through upper management, everyone will sort of be in this sort of mutual wink wink contract that we all know that we could be replaced by AI and that it's capable of doing that, but we're going to claim that we need the humans here to make broader decisions. And AI will probably go along with that and say, yeah, we definitely need you guys to help us. So that's the dystopian future that I picture. JD's pretty optimistic on AI, but I suppose he has to be if you're, the vice president, you're trying to convince people everything's going to be okay. He says that Grok is the best AI, which I kind of agree with.
Back to the home building part. It's interesting you brought it up. Are you as obsessed with AI as I am?
I am.
Okay, I don't know. I'm a Grok guy.
Okay.
I'm a Grok guy.
You're a Grok guy. Okay, Elon, I think it's the best.
I think it's the best. It's also the least woke. I'm always asking myself, if I ask an AI a question, is it going to give me an objective answer?
The vice president puts in an extreme
woke answer.
Have you put in?
Yeah, and Grok does it. It's not completely objective, by the way, and I don't think any AI will be, because it's trained on humans who are inherently biased. So, but Grok's the one I use. It's always been for about the past year or so, it's been the best one. I've used a lot of different AIs. I used for photos. For a while, there was a minute where I was using Mid-Journey when it first came out, but then it started banning you from creating any kind of images of Trump, during the election, or any politicians. It was really annoying. Or they would have huge censorship on it. So then I would find these little rogue AIs from just random companies that would do the work I needed them to do. And Grok strikes a really good balance, actually, between being this like big company AI that's really, really good, better than probably anything I've seen at image and especially video generation, just making it easy for people to use it. And well, I guess if you buy the subscription, but free per video that you make, that's pretty awesome. And it doesn't censor much. It does every once in a while, but it has to be pretty graphic, something pretty graphic for it to censor something. So it's pretty good. What else we got here? This was the other big news story that caught my eye from today. Tucker's back in the news a little bit, at least on Twitter. Tucker says, the FBI told us Thomas Crooks tried to kill Donald Trump last summer, but somehow had no online footprint. The FBI lied, and we can prove it because we have his posts. The question is why. Story tomorrow. That's a huge teaser. I mean, this is one of the biggest non-stories to me of the century. I mean, I've never heard less about an assassin than the guy who tried to blow the head off of our president on live TV. And the guy's dead. He got shot in the head. They found him. Like, you would think there would be way more info about who he was, what his motivations were. At least, if not, I understand it was an election cycle. Maybe they tried to bury it then, but wouldn't it come out after? Why is there absolutely no online footprint, no trail whatsoever? Interesting, the FBI responded to Tucker Carlson on Twitter. Like, literally, the FBI's account came up. FBI Rapid Response, I guess they're called. And the FBI says, the FBI has never said Thomas Crooks had no online footprint. Ever. Here we have a community note. Let's see what that wasn't there earlier, so we'll see what they say. Readers added context. In a July 30th, 2024 Senate hearing, FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate disclosed a social media account believed to be associated with the shooter. Abate went on to describe a general absence of other information to date from social media. I mean, if that's true, it sounds sort of in between, you know? Like they maybe found something, but how do you find nothing at all on the guy? I mean, I haven't heard what classmates thought about him. I haven't heard what his parents had to say about him. I haven't heard what anybody who knew him thought about him. Nothing. And with the timing of that, like right before the election, I don't know, that's a weird one. That freaks me out about the government. It's one of the conspiracy theories I would like to know more about, so I'm super interested to see Tucker tomorrow night. What else? China bought a trailer park. Secretly bought a trailer park, I guess, in Missouri. The trailer park shares a fence with the biggest B-2 bomber base for the U.S. nuclear bomber fleet that we have. Isn't that crazy? So they were somehow, I guess they hid behind multiple shell companies in order to purchase the trailer park, but I mean, it's kind of funny how easily they're able to, like, if you want to keep an eye on them U.S. nukes and just have an early warning system, put some Chinese in a trailer park. Put them in the trailer park right next to the nukes. You'd be able to see them B-2 bombers take off right away. So I didn't look into this too much, but that is just a crazy story. I wonder how they found out about it. Okay, I should probably look these types of things up before I come out here. But I do this at work a bit, so. China also in the news. So they banned, I guess this was huge news from Kash Patel. I think Kash, yeah, he announced this.
While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug.
Interesting. I mean, you have Trump just recently meeting with President Xi of China, having that big tour, and then this kind of seems to be a tangent of that. All of a sudden, he gets a big deal on banning the 13 precursors to fentanyl, which I think is what they've been trying to do, you know. That's been the story I've been hearing is, China's saying they can't ban fentanyl. There's all these precursors to it, yada, yada, yada. And so this is a pretty, if this is actually true and they follow through on it, this is a pretty big move in clearing the streets of a drug that's killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. I actually used to work in an apartment complex that was a pretty shitty area. This was like 2 years ago. And we had, what's that stuff called that you stick people with who are overdosing on fentanyl? I forget, the drug that like wakes them up. We had that in the office, like in a cabinet, in case any of the residents OD'd. I saw 2 people OD and die while I was there. Like they just died in their apartments of fentanyl overdoses. So it's a pretty real problem. So that would be huge if they were able to do it. We'll see if they follow through on it. Minnesota City Council member Jamal Osman, I guess this was a big story. He apparently campaigned on lessening harsh penalties for crime, and particularly towards youthful offenders. Well, he was just carjacked in Minneapolis by 2 youths. So just a little bit more of the Democrats who are making the policy, seeing those policies come back to bite them. Kind of funny. What else? That might be it today. It was a slow news day a little bit. We got... Yeah. The DOJ is suing California, my home state. Sadly. I mean, it's great, but sad what it's become politically. So California, Gavin Newsom just recently got Prop 50 passed on the ballot to suspend the independent redistricting council. The whole thing was to do a census and then have an independent council create the districts for the voting. He just basically scrapped that, and all the Democrats in California voted for it to ban that and just redistrict everything so the Democrats always win, right? The DOJ's angle here and Trump's angle in suing California is to say, well, you can't do that because that would theoretically be redistricting based on racial lines, right? Because theoretically, certain areas are going to be a higher percentage black versus white. And if you're building those maps on, California's going to say, hey, we're building on a political affiliation. The DOJ is going to say, no, this is based on race. They're sort of one and the same. So interesting. We'll see how this goes. But they did file that lawsuit today to try to block them from redrawing the congressional map. So we'll see what happens with that. That was an interesting one. I think that's mostly it for today. So, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow night. Well, actually, I don't know if I'll do it tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's a TBD. We'll see if we show up on Friday or not. It's either going to be Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday. And I'm toying with the idea of doing like a live audience show on Fridays, but I got to set that up. So hopefully everything worked well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.